YouTube? Welcome to Fred's Full Throttle. The moment I've been waiting for is finally here, sharing the first real drive of the E46 race car build, but with torrential rains, just 2 drivers, and the fact that this car hasn't been driven in over a decade. Did it go well, or did the car fail spectacularly? Let's go find out. For anyone new to the channel, let me share a little backstory. Here's a 2-minute recap. Upon forming a 24 Hours of Lemons team and getting the car, we needed to turn it into a race car. The next 2.25 years were spent working on the car, one day almost every weekend for more than 2 years. The 4 of us made the pilgrimage up to Travis's house. I live the closest, about 75 minutes away, while Ian's another 30 and Joe is another 20 on top of that. But we did it, nearly 100 weekends total. We all made the drive. Hundreds of man hours, over $12,000 in safety equipment, metal, welding supplies, tires, and preparation. We built the car. None of us had any significant experience doing anything like this previously. We learned as we went, we watched a lot of YouTube how-tos, and we made a lot of mistakes. But we persevered. Here's what we did. We stripped the car right down to the frame. We removed the drivetrain, the gas tank, suspension, rear axle, and differential. We fixed cracks in the chassis and welded in subframe reinforcements in the back. We replaced the subframe bushings. We serviced and reassembled the differential. We repacked the grease in the driveshaft universal joint. We replaced the bushings in the shift assembly. We removed the air conditioning, the stereo, and wrapped hundreds of feet of electrical cables. We replaced the radiator, the cooling pump, the vanos, the air intake, and the vacuum lines. Ian fabricated the entire exhaust by hand. I think I probably cut about 40 of those little 15-degree metal slices which he used to make that exhaust. We replaced the brakes, rotors, and pads. We flushed the lines. We emptied and cleaned the gas tank, and we replaced the primary fuel pump while we were in there. Ian spent probably another 200 hours welding together the roll cage, laying in the footwells, pretzeled up in the back seat, and under the car. We sanded, and then we primed the entire car, inside and out, as well as the roll cage. Travis then hand-painted the hood of the car in plaid, which came out awesome. We sold off the parts we could to count against our $500 budget. We scoured the internet to find more wheels, and we bought a set of tires. We installed 2 different racing seats after the first one wasn't quite right, and we installed a full racing harness. We programmed and wired up the comm system. We installed a fire suppression system. Travis hand-fabricated a wood spoiler and replaced the shock mounts in the back. We built a custom hood release and door pulls. We replaced the taillights, installed a new shift knob, and installed a wide-angle mirror. We troubleshot and diagnosed an electrical issue with the immobilizer and replaced the car's ECU. We installed a detachable racing steering wheel and built a cool suit pump system triggered by switches on the steering wheel. In short, we're ready to go drive this thing. So, we signed up for an autocross as a way to shake down the car, and we were off to the metaphorical races. So last Friday, after work, I drove up to the garage to pick up the car in the trailer so I didn't have to drive as far the following Saturday morning. Of course, New England had a funny sense of humor, and a good week of rain leading up to and even during this was in the cards. It was coming down, truly like washout levels of rain. Roads were flooding, branches were coming down, and this continued for days leading up to Friday and into Saturday. Loading the car was uneventful other than getting completely soaked, and then I schlepped the car back in our home, threw some plastic wrap over it since it doesn't have any side windows, put it on a battery tender, and packed up the truck. Saturday morning, race day, starts real early. The gates open at 7 a.m. and it's an hour from my house. So that meant leaving my house somewhere around 5:45. It is 5:45, let's go drive. Of course, it was downpouring the whole way. It's raining pretty hard. Hopefully this will clear up soon. One thing I just realized is that I believe we did not reconnect the ABS sensors. There was a problem with the way our wiring was set up, and the little module, we didn't have a way to mount it, the thing that plugs into on the main wiring harness. So we're gonna be in the wet on racing slicks. They've got a little tread, but not much. And we probably don't have ABS. So this may be a little bit of a drift practice, but we're gonna have fun either way. The way the racing was set up, they would only allow 2 people to drive the car, despite our team having 4 people. So myself and Ian were the lucky 2. Travis from our team was also going to attend, but he was going to drive his own personal car. Ian and I arrived right at the gate as it opened and unloaded the car. Spirits are high, despite the rain. I suggested that we get our harnesses run through the plastic that was protecting the seat to get the car ready for tech, and that's when we ran into our first challenge of the day. There was no lap belt or sub belt, like they weren't even in the car at all. So a month ago, when we welded in the brackets for the new seat that we installed, we pulled the belts so they didn't get damaged by sparks from welding. We had, unbeknownst to us at the time, never put them back in the car. A frantic call to Travis, who thankfully was only 30 minutes from home, and he went back and he got us the belts. It had never even occurred to us, as the shoulder harnesses are visible, and that was what was still in the car, and that's the part you see. As Ian put it, you can't really pass tech without seatbelts, can you? Disaster averted, Travis arrives just in time, and then due to the delayed start with the rain, and within 5 minutes we had the harnesses installed and we're back in business. Due to the luck of scheduling, I had the honor of being the first person to drive the car for the day. My group got to drive first while Ian was out on cone duty working with the others. So I get into the car, get strapped in, which took longer than you'd expect with your helmet on and not really being able to see anything, and I go and get the car into line. All right. It was a surreal moment, sitting there in a car that had not driven in over a decade and that we'd spent the last 2 years working hard to turn into a race-worthy vehicle. I was so worried that it wouldn't start or something important would get wet. After all, I was sitting on a plastic trash bag covering the racing seat, wearing a motorcycle rain suit and then a raincoat on top of that in the car, and we'd forgotten a racing harness. So it was completely possible that something bad would happen. But that didn't happen. The car started, it warmed up, and it ran. And boy, did it run. I pull up to the line, and my number one thought is, don't crash or kill the car before Ian gets a chance to drive. That's all I really cared about. But then the starter says, hey, go when you're ready. So off I went.
We're good. All right. Whenever you're ready.
Alrighty. Wipers on. All right. first several laps were greasy, to say the least. Windshield wipers running, defroster with the heat on high, which was a lifesaver for the fog, and running our summer performance tires, we were also lacking the ABS and traction control modules. To say the car was a bit slippery was a bit of an understatement, but it drove, and it drove well. I took it pretty easy, especially for my first few laps, just feeling out how the car handled, poking at the steering, the brakes, the engine, trying to figure out if the car was trying to kill me or if it was a bit of a willing participant. Turns out that it was happy. No real issues. The car comes in and didn't explode, didn't catch on fire, the engine didn't detonate, or any of the other bad things that probably could have happened. It just drove. In the course of the day, we did discover a few things that we want to look at. First, the idle is a pulsing idle. 1,000 RPM, down to 500, then back up endlessly. Stalled a few times like that waiting in line. We think it's a cracked vacuum line, and we have a plan in place to fix it. Next, it runs a bit hot when it's sitting still. Sitting in line waiting to go, I saw that the temps were starting to climb up towards the red, then the overheating light comes on. So I turned it off. When I'm not driving, I would just turn it off, the temperatures to drop a little bit. Once you're driving, within seconds, those temps actually drop right back down to where they need to be. We think there's probably some air in the lines or something like that, and we're going to bleed the cooling system soon. Lastly, the exhaust is a tad too loud, and at the end of my very last lap of the day, it actually tripped the sound alarm for the event and my car was black flagged. The airfield that we were at has a very low 87 decibel limit, and the car was at 86.4. So we're going to make a new muffler for the exhaust, and we'll be peachy. Thank goodness Ian put some V-bands in near the end of the exhaust so that we can do that. But driving-wise, the car did great. No weird noises, no weird handling problems. And as the second half of the day dried out, I could start exploring the grip, the braking, the engine, and everything delivered.
When you're ready.
Thank you.
No problem.
For comparison, my very first lap of the day was a 106-second run. By the end of the day, on relatively dry pavement, I got an 86-second run. For perspective, the fastest run of the day out of anybody was a skilled driver in a GT4, and she got a 71. Not too shabby for a 24-year-old car built by a bunch of computer nerds in their spare time over the last 2 years. Driving home, I reflected on just what a wonderful day it was, rain and hardships included. The knowledge of cars, and specifically of this car that we have, is so much better. The friendships that we've built and the camaraderie has really grown, and now we're finally able to go use the car and enjoy it. Stay tuned as we're registered for the Lemons race at Thompson Speedway on August 2nd and 3rd. If you decide to attend, come and find us and say hi. In the meantime, I've got all kinds of other things going on. New motorcycles, a project scooter, track days in the Corvette, track days on the new race bike, and a lot of other things. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time, Fred out!